Disclaimer: this video is an assignment for sociology class Body and Society at San Diego State University. The purpose of this assignment is to help inform us on key issues related to sociology of the body. The positions being advocated may not necessarily reflect the opinions of the students developing this video.
In this group video research project, we will be speaking on the sexualization of Black racial identities. In this research group video project, our purpose is to educate others on the sexualization of Black identities and the seemingly harmless impacts. By educating others, we can help promote understanding, empathy, and a respect for a diverse society. In part 1, I will be speaking about the stereotypes of Black women in order to shed light on the importance of recognizing that stereotypes have a significant negative impact on individuals and communities. Some background information. Sexualization and hypersexualization of Black identities started during slavery when white slave owners would sexually assault, harass, and rape Black women and young Black women. In many cases, this would result in pregnancy. Society then started to perceive Black women as very sexually active humans, which created a negative stereotype that has been continuously followed to this day. In specific, this has resulted in the stereotyping of motherhood, sexualization, and judgment of the personality. My first point is on motherhood. Black mothers have historically been subject to negative stereotypes such as overly strict and too hard on their children, along with being unloving and uncaring. These assumptions ignore the reality of a diverse experience of Black mothers and have historically targeted Black women and have perpetuated the notion that Black mothers are unfit to be good mothers. This has been caused to justify the separation of Black children from their families during slavery and segregation, and has allowed for a continuous reason to defend historical discrimination in families. These stereotypes are not only invalid, but they are also extremely harmful, and they can lead to a prejudice against Black mothers. My second point is on the hypersexualization stereotype against Black women. This stereotype portrays them as immodest and overly sexual. A large percentage of young Black women and girls are viewed through a hypersexual lens. The root to this problem tracks back to when African Americans were enslaved. Women and girls were raped by their slave owners and was justified due to the idea that these women had an insatiable eager for sex. This led to many enslaved girls and women being pregnant during this time, which left large amounts of beliefs that Black women and girls were very sexual. We see now during the 21st century that Black women are being sexualized through media platforms, movies, magazines, etc., for the leading stereotype that Black women have large breasts and buttocks to be shown off to the public. In my third point, I will be talking about the stereotypes of an angry Black woman. A harmful profile that has persisted in popular culture for many years portrays Black excellence as an aggressive, confrontational, and quick-to-anger woman. This characterization has led to negative attitudes and discriminatory behaviors towards Black women. It is perpetuated by social biases rooted to historical and systematic racism that has been labeled upon Black women as being inferior and unworthy of respect. The dehumanization and harmful profiles have had profound effects on their lives, causing limited opportunities, dismissal of their abilities, and perpetuating cycle of discriminatory and inequality. The stereotypes of Black women are naturally aggressive and angry has been known to cause difficulty for employment, treatment, and interpersonal interactions, and even in the justice system. By educating others, we can help promote understanding, empathy, and a respect for a diverse society. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to segment 2 of this video. My name is Litzy Perez Lascurain, and I will be discussing some more about the sexualization of Black identities, and more specifically how that looks when talking about Black women in the media. The forms of media that Black women are sexualized in are a long variety. However, I will mainly be focusing on the entertainment of the past moving into the music videos of the present. Firstly, I'd like to add on to Talisa's examples of historical context of Black women's sexualization by giving a more specific example to the objectification of Black women's so-called exotic features. Sarah Bartman, the woman pictured in this slide, was a woman who was exploited by a white man from the moment she was taken from her home tribe in South Africa. She left with a promise to become famous, and instead became treated as an exotic attraction in entertainment shows. In the places she was toured at, she was known as the Hot and Hot Venus, Hot and Hot being an offensive term for the Khoi people of South Africa, and Venus expressing a woman with fertility and femininity. Sarah had a medical condition that caused a buildup of fat in her buttocks, which caused a sense of fascination at her entertainment shows. She wore clothes that exposed her, and apart from being paraded around for viewing, she was also able to be booked for private events where she could also be touched. She was dissected after her death, and her brain was preserved as well as her genitals, and were later museumized. Her story reminds us how Black women have been exploited and sexualized for their bodies and simply existing. This also shows early forms of sexualization in entertainment that paved the way of how Black women are treated in entertainment today. One primary form of entertainment today is music videos, and this area has not been left untouched by the constant sexualization of Black women. For example, on the screen are 2 screenshots of Meghan Trainor's All About That Bass, wherein you can see a white woman grabbing the Black woman's buttocks and watching her twerk, all while having an amazed and shocked look on her face. This sexualization of Black women in music videos extends beyond just white women and Black women, but also white men. In this clip of Wraith by Peace, you can see that Black women are dancing for the entertainment of white men and being hypersexualized. Not all instances of Black women being sensual and explicit about sexuality are bad. It is when this is the only narrative available that it becomes toxic for Black women and communities. There are so many more examples of Black women being sexualized in music videos, such as Azalea's work, in which she uses Black women as accessories. Consumer culture has curated a certain image of Black women that has ingrained in society that this is what they must be like. When Black women don't get to choose their own narratives, their stories aren't told, and they are not represented correctly because they are only being defined for their body work, or what they do in order to keep up with consumer culture. When Black women are being shown these hypersexualized versions of themselves, but then not hearing any form of sexuality from home and from school, it can lead to a conflicting and confusing sexual education and understanding of what safe sex is. Having healthy narratives in entertainments of what Black women really look like and what Black women's sexuality can be like will bring a healthier balance to the perception of Black communities and the use of safe sex. Thank you for listening to my segment of the video, and I will now pass it on to
Part 3, Sexualization of Black Males in Athletics. In this part, I will be discussing not only the sexualization of Black males in athletics, but I'll also be talking about 3 main points, which are the historical context of Black male athletes as hypersexualized beings, the impact of media and advertising in perpetuating harmful stereotypes, as well as the implications of sexualization on the mental health and well-being in Black male athletes. The first main point that I'll be discussing is the history of Black men's hypersexualization in athletics. The historical context about Black men in athletics being sexualized over history is that it can relate all the way back into the era of slavery, where we can see the white slave owners trying to portray them as bigger and stronger men who could handle labor-intensive duties. We can see the long-lasting effects of these stereotypes in the present-day area in athletics, such as in this picture right here, where we see a casual picture of LeBron James and a lady in a green dress. However, when we dig deeper, we find out that these are racially inspired, as people have come to determine that this picture is initially inspired by a poster for King Kong, where we see LeBron being portrayed as the ape who holds his gorgeous blonde. The media will also tend to portray Black male athletes as more physical beings. Just example in this photo where we see this male football player crashing through a glass. Although these magazine covers may seem harmless, they reinstate these racist stereotypes that can have ever long-lasting effects on also the mental health of these Black male athletes. Due to the media portrayal of Black male athletes, we can see how it can have a significant impact on their mental health and well-being. This can cause them to have feelings of anxiety, depression, and even self-doubt. Due to all these feelings, They may even feel that they need to suppress their emotions and even try to fit into these stereotypes in order to feel like they belong and they're not left out or isolated. As you can see, it is essential that we continue to prioritize the mental health of Black male athletes and work towards creating a more inclusive and supportive environment for all athletes.
Hi, my name is Amani Black, and my focus is on sexualization of Black men in entertainment media. The hypersexualization of Black men is linked all the way back to slavery. Black men were over-sexualized and dehumanized so that they could be more easily controlled and so that the cruelties of slavery could be justified. The perception of Black men as animalistic and over-sexual allowed whites to position themselves as being more sexually controlled than Black men, and it allowed for the criminalization of Black men's supposed sexual lawlessness. Black men became a threat to white women and were seen as dangerous and violent, associations that still exist today. These perceptions were perpetuated in entertainment media with the creation of the brute stereotype. This stereotyped character is what Patricia Hill Collins calls a controlling image, in that it shapes meanings attached to being Black and being a Black male. The brute was aggressive, dangerous, and hypersexual. He was a threat to white women and therefore a danger to society. He was the opposite of a white man. Representations of the brute in media contributed to the large number of lynchings in the South during the 19th and 20th centuries. Most lynchings were justified with false accusations of a Black man harassing or sexually assaulting a white woman. Today, the traits associated with the brute and other negative stereotypes still occur in contemporary media, contributing to a perception of Black men as hyper-athletic, dangerous, and sexually aggressive. There are numerous examples of this type of depiction in pop culture. Black characters are so often sexually objectified, hypermasculinized, or depicted as dangerous in entertainment. Examples are movies like Friday and shows like Riverdale, and even the Old Spice commercials, which all depict Black men as nothing more than sexual objects or dangers to society or women. Black men are disproportionately cast as gangsters compared to other races, and there are a lot of gaps in Black representation in general. And for Black men, one of these gaps is as main desired love interests, and another important gap is as portrayals of present Black fathers. These representations are harmful for Black men and society in general. The depictions of men as hypersexualized and therefore dangerous create a bias against Black men that has negative external outcomes and is internalized by Black men. Society largely views Black men as violent, leading to increased surveillance of Black male bodies. Black men represent a disproportionate amount of traffic stops, arrests, and police shooting victims. They make up a third of all incarcerated people in the United States. This relates to Foucault's concept of biopower and how it's enforced by principles of the clinical gaze, specifically those of continuous surveillance and corrective measures. Many of these on-screen portrayals also respond to Western standards of hegemonic masculinity, which is the dominant form of masculinity in Western culture. This especially applies to the expectation for a certain type of muscular body and in the dominance of a heteronormative perspective, as discussed in Houston's The Body and Society. This has an influence on the self-image of Black men, especially in situations when racial discrimination and oppression or other factors prevent them from meeting defined patriarchal norms. But despite a history of negative portrayals, a shift is occurring as more Black filmmakers gain voices. Characters in movies like Get Out, Creed 3, and shows like This Is Us, The Good Place, and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt depict Black male leads with depth and emotional capabilities. There are countless more examples of positive portrayals of Black men, and there are still issues in the way some of these characters are portrayed, but the changing tide of Black male representation signals a cultural change surrounding the sexualization of Black men and of Black people in general. And here are my references. Thank you so much.